Good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening, wherever you are in the world. As always, I'm Mary Gerdoux-Harries, the CEO of Aspire Consulting and Training Limited, and this is Becoming the Leader in You podcast. In each episode, we always explore real leadership stories, successes, challenges, and also the lessons behind them. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And you can also listen on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and more. My guest today is a Franco-British leadership and resilience coach, trainer, and former senior engineering manager with more than 20 years of international experience across the UK, France, and Switzerland, which basically means she can probably manage a crisis in 3 languages, while the rest of us are still looking for the mute button on Zoom. She helps achieving professionals stop running on caffeine, adrenaline, and blind panic, and instead leads with more energy, authenticity, and also sustainability through her work in core energy coaching. She's also spoken at international women's leadership conferences. She has delivered leadership and coaching programs in technical and corporate environments, and somehow manages to combine engineering precision with human emotion, which, if you've ever worked in engineering, you'll actually know that's basically a superpower. Please welcome my guest, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, Mary Gerdoux-Harries, the Resonance coach. Mary, I hope I said that correctly.
You did. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with very little practice as well. So
lots of practice, absolutely lots and lots of practice. So I appreciate it. How do you actually say your name, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, so the French bit is Gerdoux, and Harris is Harris.
Harris. Fair enough.
But it's actually quite difficult when you put like a French word next to an English word, and they're quite hard to
yeah, it's a bit of a tongue twister. Because you've come with the douche and then the Harris, and it hits you. So yeah. Mary, thank you so much for your time today. And we were just talking about the weather. It's scorchingly hot in the UK, and you're based in France, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'm in the
south of France.
Yeah.
Yes, and the temperature's pretty hot there as well.
It is. So I came here for the warmer weather, but interestingly, yes, when I'm back speaking to people in the UK, sometimes it's actually the same, and sometimes I can be a bit smug about the fact that it's warmer here. But
oh, wonderful! No, that's good. I'm going to jump straight into the purpose and the reason for why we're doing this podcast. It's to get to understand people out there, similar to myself, who work with lots of different companies and clients, and understand your stories in how you got to where you are today, and also some of the challenges you may have faced. And as ever, the podcast is called Becoming a Leader in You. So my first question is about that. What does that mean to you personally?
So many different things, and I guess that's what we'll get to. But this question of leadership, it can take so many forms. And I would say in the work I'm doing now as a coach and a trainer, I meet so many people and talk about leadership all the time.
Yeah.
And for me, I do really sign up to this thing of saying, it's about leading from where you are. We're going to talk about that in a bit, the question of, what is a leader and what does it look like?
Yeah.
And I really think, I genuinely believe now that it's very much once you're kind of aligned with who you are and how you function, that's when you can start really leading. And it's when you're kind of fighting that or not understanding how that works for you, that leadership just doesn't actually happen.
Excellent. No, that's a great explanation. And when did you become a leader? How long did it take within your roles to actually get to the point where you thought to yourself, I am now a leader?
Ooh, very good question, because there's a difference, I think, between actually doing it and then my perception of the fact that I was actually doing it.
Okay, give me both then.
So two answers to that question. I got to a point where I was quite frustrated in my career because I was not yet a manager. And for different reasons, I was more going in a kind of technical specialist kind of direction. And I got frustrated by not having opportunities to manage people. And eventually that did happen. So in my mind at one point, that was my definition. But when I look back and I see some of the projects I was running, the people I was engaging and getting on board, actually it all happened much, much earlier than that. So actually I quite quickly became a leader in retrospect, but I didn't quite have that perspective at the time.
Okay, but there's something around we say that you don't need to have a label to be a leader. And a lot of people are under the impression, if I become a manager, I'm now a leader and I have to do this. But we also forget that just working within a team or individually or whatever, you find yourself having to take the mantle of a leader sometimes, making decisions that others just aren't able to. So did you find yourself in that sort of situation when you first started in your engineering work life?
Yes, and I would say the first opportunity that really came was quite early on, as I was still going through a graduate program, and I can remember sort of being told, oh, well, if you want to take things to another level, you have to see kind of beyond just kind of the tasks you're being asked to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was really baffled. Huh? What am I supposed to do? And then they said, well, look, you already, even if you haven't been here a long time, have experience here and experience there. How could you bring that to the team in some way? And then I went, oh, okay. And then when I started to do some of these things, and then I realized, oh my goodness, I have something to offer. This huge group of people that I initially found quite intimidating. They're all more experienced than I am, but actually I do have something to offer. And when I started kind of tapping into that, then yes, on this particular area, on this particular subject, I became the leader in that huge department of people that I thought would never see me as a leader.
Fantastic. And we forget, because you did quite nicely say that you've been doing this for 20 years. And we forget that as we sort of going into our mature years with the experiences, new blood can actually give us some advice and different types of experiences, and they can actually lead conversations when we're thinking, God, I don't even know how to turn the microwave on, and yet these guys are able to reprogram it. So it is about those different abilities that people have at different ages as well. So what took you from the UK to Europe?
So for me, my first idea, so I did a year of my degree in Australia.
Right. Okay.
My first idea was, I need to get back to Australia. I thought it was so cool. I had such a good time. And then I actually started working. And then this idea, I got to know this area of the south of France. So it's the Côte d'Azur. It's very warm and sunny. It's only an hour and a half's flight from the UK instead of being Australia and far. And when I came here, I'm looking out of the window because I'm looking at what I came here for. There's the sea, the mountains are just over there. There's a really kind of outdoorsy lifestyle. And that's really what I came for. It's the quality of life I was looking for. Yeah,
you've just ruined everyone's day now, because people are looking through their windows, well, actually at the moment, the beautiful sunshine. I'm fortunate, I've got fields over there and there's a couple of sheep and cows in different fields, so I'm okay. But others are kind of like thinking, I can see the industrial sites just there. So you obviously moved across, and your work has allowed you to remain in Europe, but you've changed your role now and you are a coach. And there's people that may have influenced you, or situations that have influenced you. So that brings me on to my second question about who or what shaped you to the person that you are today.
Well, in 20-something years, quite a few people, of course, along the way. Early on, it was definitely my dad. Actually, he was a big influence early on. Later on, I've had, like most people probably, a mixed bag of good and bad, what I would categorize good and bad managers who all had their different influences. But I would honestly say the biggest influence in terms of the leader I've become today was actually becoming a mother.
Oh, really?
Quite seriously. Because it changes your life in such a completely radical way, and kind of all my mechanisms and how I did things, and it just got completely thrown out of the window. And it required a whole different way of doing things. And I would say that's been a massive influence.
New routines and new ways of doing things, and managing risk.
Managing unpredictability. People not doing what they're kind of supposed to be doing. And also for me, like I'm a very goal-oriented task action organization. That's kind of where I do well. Doesn't work. It doesn't work in the home small child environment at all. And also, I sort of alluded to this a bit in terms of moving here. Sport's always been a big part of my life, and that was my kind of go-to place for other things that I wanted in life. And that stopped being it didn't work in the same way anymore once I became a parent. And it was like, hang on,
Yeah.
Like nothing's working like it used to. And yeah, it took a lot of work actually with a coach that helped me kind of see things differently, realize that I have different, things that I can tap into. And yeah, that was a massive leadership journey, honestly.
Yeah. And I suppose when you think about the role of a mother or parent and the way that you have to look after children and work with those children and influence and support those children, those are the same mechanisms that you're using when you're working with your clients as well, who in some cases do behave like children.
Yeah, which is we kind of feel that that's maybe a negative comment, but it's really not, because there's something also very much more honest about the way children behave and express things without these layers that we add and we learn as we become adults. And in terms of getting to the point and realizing what's really going on, it's quite a good lesson in that.
It is. It's that naivety when they ask the honest questions, and you think, well, this is what working in industry should be like. Working in corporations, it should be like that, where people can have those honest conversations. Where a child will say, "Well, I don't like this." Someone should be able to have the courage to say, "I'm not keen on what you've just told me." But so you've been working in engineering for quite some time. Are your clients still engineering based, or have you sort of moved around into different industry sectors?
Interesting. So my intention, this is another interesting journey. My intention when I started was I had what we call the limiting belief in coaching, that somehow I would be taken less seriously as a coach with a technical engineering background. So I felt very drawn to kind of distancing myself from that. And that was where I was kind of focused at the beginning. And that's also a whole process I've been through about realizing, well, no, it's just all part of who I am. And it's actually what I bring to my coaching. And bit by bit, yes, now I'm working an awful lot with engineers because it makes a lot of sense. And of course, that's sort of who I attract in the end. It's a context I know, I have a lot of experience there. And even if in coaching, it's more about using questions and methods, the fact that you understand the environment that people are in makes such a difference.
Yeah, of course.
So I really feel like, yes, that's I didn't set out necessarily with that direction, and it's kind of come into a natural circle. And yes, predominantly I'm working with people in engineering.
Okay. And language-wise, how many languages do you speak?
Well, I only speak English and French well. I do have some German, but it's shaky and a little bit.
Does that help you though, being bilingual? Does it help with the clients that you're working with?
It really does, and not just because sometimes I work in French and sometimes I work in English. I think this whole experience of, and I talked about it recently actually at the WES conference, about the different things that can make us feel uncomfortable or not part of the group or something else. Language, amongst other things, can be one of them. When you're constantly working in a language which isn't your first language, there's so much stuff there about either not necessarily getting things that are said, because if it's not your native language, there's sort of
it's the technical language that you miss out on, isn't it?
Yeah, or it's just, in fact, some of the worst things at work sometimes would be things like the chats at the coffee machine between meetings. It's like, what are we even talking about? And you can feel very different in those moments. So those kind of experiences, the challenge of having to kind of keep translating what you want to say and not always being able to say things the way you want to.
There's an element of intimidation when other people are speaking so fast and you're trying to keep up with the conversation. You pick up a few words, so you think, okay, I get the gist, but slow down or give me subtitles.
Exactly. Or it's and you never get time to say what you wanted to say, because by the time you've figured out what they said, what you want to say, they've already moved on. You're like, hang on, can we just go back 3 sentences, please? I'm still over here.
I have the same issue. I work with lots of different organizations around the world who also they have their own languages that they speak in, and unfortunately I do understand a lot of the languages, but when they start talking too fast, kind of stop, slow down. Remember, that's not my native tongue. So, and it's great. Sometimes it helps when you're doing consulting work and you're sitting with your clients and they don't realize you understand a lot of the stuff that they're saying. And then you just jump in and go, what? How did you know what we were talking about? Mary, you mentioned earlier on about belief. And my next question is actually about the belief in leadership. As a trainer, as a coach, as a facilitator, as someone who has who can be in the position to influence, We also have our own beliefs as well, some things that we feel very strongly about that others may disagree with. What would you say that is for you, Mary?
I would say it's connected to what I was saying at the beginning about this, anyone can be and is a leader. And even if I feel like these days a lot of people are saying that, but that nonetheless, most people have a fundamental understanding of leadership that is, it's people who are charismatic or loud or easily attract attention. That's what leadership looks like. And it also might be that certain contexts, that's really like a good leadership trait for the given situation. But there are so many other contexts and situations where that's kind of not what's called for, or that's not what's going to really engage people, which is what leadership's about. It's about getting people on board. Where are we going? Giving them a direction. And depending on the what the situation is and what it calls for, then who's going to be the leader, it can emerge depending on who's in the room. And it doesn't have to be a certain set of behaviors, and it doesn't have to be the same people.
I'm so with you on that. And I understand when people say, well, to be a leader, you have to be that charismatic person, the loudest person in the room, the one with all the information, all the knowledge. But we forget that there's quieter people out there who've got the knowledge, the experience, and the ability to speak when it's necessary. Yet when they do speak, the whole room just stops and goes, yeah, I get it. And that's really important. Would you say that social media has given a different interpretation of what a true leader should be like?
Interesting question. I don't know. I think social media does lots of different things. So the speed and the nature of social media means this whole thing about influence culture now, and being like this or being like that, that's going to attract people, and people can see that as leadership. What it has also done, though, is given a platform to people with many different ways of expressing themselves. I know people who are, if you're in a room with them, they're not going to necessarily say very much, but they might put together an amazing video, or they might write just really engaging and interesting things. And it gives them the opportunity to express that to a really large audience that never would have happened before. So I feel like it's a mixture of the two. And then, of course, depends who you end up following. Because I follow a certain number of people, but that's also because I kind of like a certain style. So maybe I have the impression that everyone's like that, but in actual fact, perhaps there's an awful lot of other people doing another kind of style, and I'm not really seeing it so much.
I get that as well, because similar to you, I'm always watching these people on TikTok or on Instagram. You think, God, they're really encouraging other people out there. They've got the audacity to be the way that they are. And I mean that in a positive way. It's a positive audacity. And then you think, going back 30 years ago, when I first sort of entered into the realms of business, actually 37 years ago, you kind of think leadership wasn't like that.
No.
And if ever we ask the question, who do you aspire to be like? People will say, oh, I want to be like Richard Branson, or I want to be like they'll mention a prime minister, or they'll mention a president or something. Or they'll say Gandhi, out of the blue, and you go, wow, okay, why? And they give you all these reasons. And I do exercise when I say, okay, explain to me who or what type of person is the ideal leader. And I remember years ago, you would have those Winston Churchills, you'd have the Mahatma Gandhis, you'd have someone say Mother Teresa. And now it's totally different, because some of these names I've never even heard of. And I'll have conversations with my children, and they'll say, yeah, Dad, he's a TikToker. He's got 37 million followers, or she's got 54 million followers. And I'm going, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. I truly get it. But
I don't know what that is, but okay.
It's like you said, Mary, that it's a changing feast, or however it keeps changing, and people keep changing. And I was watching something recently where they were showing something on social media where they said that people who just go around mundanely talking about themselves and talking about what encourages them to be the person that they are, just walking through a field and talking, and it's just really nice and sublime, and you've got the birds chirping, and they're getting all these hits of 50, 70, 80 million people just to watch someone calmly talking about what leadership is, what management is. And I'm thinking, I don't know how to do that. I'd love to be able to do that. But yeah, it changes. But no, thank you for that. When we talk about leadership and also the challenges that we face, Mary, there's things where we talk about pressure, and we understand that clients that you might be working with may be under pressure to achieve KPIs, targets, goals, whatever. They may be under pressure to restructure their business, their organization. It could be someone that's running their own business and they're unaware of how to scale up or scale down. So they can find themselves under pressure. So what sort of support do you offer your clients when you see that they're under pressure? And a second question, who do you become when you find yourself being under pressure as well?
Okay, yeah, two great questions. So yeah, in terms of supporting people, it depends what's going on. Often, so often, it's the sort of trying to do everything and be everything to everybody is what's behind kind of the overwhelm and the too many things. And that can be usually as well, it's not just what's happening at work. It's usually the same patterns are also happening in people's personal lives. So kind of helping people really filter out and get to, and this can be really difficult. We talk about models like the Eisenhower matrix, that let's prioritize what's important, but a lot of the time people struggle with, well, I'm not actually quite sure what is important. So really digging into that could be a great way to start kind of clearing the decks. But it can take a while. It can take a while because everything can seem terribly important. And then also within that, there's well, it's actually important for you or it's important for somebody else. And also a lot of the stress is coming from what's actually important to everybody else. And seeing that and saying, okay, well, do we have to care quite so much about that? That's someone else's stuff. Let's get back to yours. I mean, I'm massively sort of oversimplifying here, but yes, that's often the heart of the process is kind of what do you really want, what's actually truly important for this situation, and maybe the KPIs or for you, where you're trying to go in terms of your career.
And it's understanding urgency versus importance. And all of a sudden, someone else's urgency, which isn't important for you, it's all hands on deck because they potentially didn't do what they were expected to do and they've passed it on to you.
There's a thing I remember from when I was in automotive. At the time, we were talking a lot about Toyota because they were really the benchmark, perhaps still are. Less involved at the benchmark when it came to optimizing time and organization and so on. And in the cultural things about the way they work, one of the things that really stuck in my mind and still does is that don't pass on a known defect thing. And if you can apply that to everything, like if everybody just took care properly of their own scope, a lot of this mess and craziness that generally ends up happening and everyone gets terribly overwhelmed wouldn't be there.
No, exactly. And that's where the pressures come in. But we don't live in this rose-tinted world that we as coaches, facilitators think should be there. What about yourself then, Mary, when you are under pressure?
Okay, so in all honesty, when the pressure comes on, I become more of my general preferences. So when these profiles that you can have about leadership, these psychometric tests and so on, I'm, like I said, I think before, this goal-oriented, laser-focused kind of objective, I get more like that. And it has its pros and cons. It can be really good for what I was saying about just then clearing the decks and getting very focused on what needs to be done. And so that can be very effective. And I can be really, really efficient. I've had that feedback so many times from managers about, I don't know how you achieve, get so much stuff done in such a short amount of time. And I can get very kind of right, it's exactly that and that and that and not these other things. Where that can not work so well can be I need to recover from behaving like that because it's very intense. I get very focused, and so if that recovery bit doesn't come in, then it sort of starts to sort of stop functioning, and it can be that I don't bring other people along with me when I get too much like that.
And that's that self-discipline as well. When you say it's about recovering, it's about being disciplined enough to know I've overstepped my own mark and I now need to take some breathing space. But you work by yourself, don't you? So the Resonance coach is you and you and you.
So
you do everything. So that also has
challenges, doesn't it? It really does. It really does. And I did an exercise last year whilst at a conference, actually, that I loved. And now I keep recommending to people, which was about it was making a big kind of map of who are your support people for all sorts of areas, for kind of business questions, personal stuff, when I need a bit of a kick up the backside, when whatever the different things are, who have I got? Yeah. And also, who am I that person for? And I realized on the business side of things, I had a couple of big gaps. I was like, well, I don't actually have anyone now in this way of working. And so that's something I then addressed. I was like, okay, well, there's someone I've been working with. We could do some kind of toing and froing of mentoring each other. So we do that now, and I actually have 2 or 3 people that I do that with. Right. That was missing. And the exercise of stepping back and looking at it, having to go, oh my goodness, well, no wonder this is difficult. Who is it? Who's helping me with this stuff? Exactly. No, excellent. And you've already touched on it, which leads into my final question for today. My God, half an hour has gone really quickly. It's about taking a step back, but having that honest conversation with yourself. Again, when you're working by yourself, running your own business, sometimes you don't have those people that you do want to bounce those questions off or have as that mentor or support at that time. So if you were to have a conversation with yourself to improve something that you need to improve on, what would that be? The thing I really am quite aware that I need to do something about at the moment, and I'm not, is building a sort of longer term kind of growth plan for my business. I've been focused on getting clients, getting things moving, becoming more visible, and that's starting to happen more. But to build to where, or how does all of this fit into kind of a longer term picture? Yeah, that's missing at the moment. So it's something I need to address. So something that you do need to do. And just for the benefit of the listeners and the viewers, what do you do as the Resonant Coach? Oh my goodness, too many things. Give me 2 or 3. Give you 2 or 3. So coaching, on the coaching side, I coach people who come to me through their organization. So it can be businesses. That's great when they want to pay for coaching for people, or it can be people that have decided for themselves they want some support. Yeah. And examples would be, at the moment, I'm coaching a number of young female engineers who have sort of landed in roles in organizations and are wondering what on earth they've got themselves into. I also do group coaching sessions where I have a topic and then I invite people to come along and talk about that topic. And then another big part of my work is training. Yeah. And that covers leadership management, project management, and recently I've added major incident management. So excellent. Branching a bit into the IT area, which I know less well, actually. Yeah. So quite broad, own change management as well. Yeah. Fantastic. So you do a lot at Resonance Coach. Yes. Just out of interest, where did the name of the company come from? I was searching around for something that resonated, and there was something about, my idea was, when I coach someone, or when I've been coached, when things start to work, we hit that resonant frequency where instead of going like this, suddenly we're actually getting into a bigger amplitude. Because we've hit like the sweet spot or the right frequency. So this idea of finding my own frequency, which is individual to me and it's not anybody else's, is really the work in the coaching. So that's where that came from. I forget the megahertz. Is it 314 or something like that megahertz, or 297 megahertz? That's the ultimate frequency that we should be operating at. But I've probably got the number totally wrong. I'm terrible for remembering numbers, so I honestly couldn't say that. No worries at all. But Mary, thank you so much for your time today. It's half an hour has gone really, really quickly. It has gone really quickly. For anyone that would like to get in touch with you and understand a bit more about what you do, how could they do that? There are 2 good places. So one is my website, which is www.resonance.coach, and there's a form on there for getting in touch with me. My email address is on the screen as well, so it's mary@resonance.coach, or LinkedIn. I'm quite easy to find as well, since there aren't many Gerdoux-Harries on LinkedIn. So excellent. That's fantastic. What I will do, I'll make sure that everyone gets to see your information on the description for the podcasts, so that they don't miss out. And likewise, there'll be a description as well on the YouTube descriptions out there. But as for today's Becoming the Leader in You podcast, thank you so much for everyone that's been watching, for all of you that's been listening.
As ever, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, so that you don't miss any episodes similar to today's, which are really, really good. From me, it's about keep growing, keep leading, but most importantly, becoming the leader in you. I've been Jay Charya, and my guest today has been Mary, the Resonance coach. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you.